Sitting in for Armin Budish. Welcome to Golden Opportunities.
Today, we'll look at the future to see if pension plans are a thing of the past. Are your activities making your back pain worse? We'll try to ease your mind and your back. Then, we feature a triple header. Discover an American writer, an Irish rover, and a Hollywood brawler, all rolled into one big personality. And we'll reveal tips to bulletproof your estate from lawsuits after you die.
It's time to get GOing, so pull up a chair and join us at our kitchen table for Golden Opportunities. Pensions used to be plentiful, but that was in the past. Looking to the future, how do we prepare without pensions for a realistic retirement? Certified financial planner Jim Lineweaver is here to help us understand the tensions caused by living without pensions. Jim is with the Lineweaver Financial Group. Welcome again to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to have you.
So paint us a picture of why pensions are fast becoming, a thing of the past.
Yeah, people have been used to it in the private sector for a long time, because back in like 1975, there was about 40 people that had defined benefit plans where you're going to work all your life and get a steady, pension check down the road. And that's down to like 17% today. So it's really dropped dramatically. So you're seeing it because a lot of the companies are trying to shift the burden from their pockets over to the employees. They were very expensive plans to administer. And also what's occurring is that it's starting to hit the public sector now. So there's much more awareness today than there ever was before.
It probably made sense when people stayed at one job for their whole career, but it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, you may have 5 or 6 different jobs and careers by the time you hit retirement.
So there's been a change in work patterns and society. How has this change in work patterns in society changed how we save for retirement?
Well, they've come out with different plans. So instead of like your defined benefit plan where your employer was putting in a lot of money, now there's things like 401ks for the private enterprise, for people in the public sector. There can be like 403Bs or 457 plans. And it's the exact kind of flip of the numbers we just talked about before. Because now what happens from back in 1975, there was only about 16% of the population in 401ks and instruments like this. And now it's up to 42%. So it's going full circle. Exactly. And you're going to see more of that because more and more companies are getting rid of these defined benefit plans. But the big awareness, again, as I mentioned, is now in the public sector. So it's hitting people like at the school systems and police officers and firemen.
So are there big changes coming for those people?
Huge changes. So what's occurring is that, a lot of times when you're a state teacher, maybe when you hit 35 years, you got an 11% bump in your pay. That's gone. Potential changes include like after you retire after 2015, you're not going to have any cost of living adjustment for 5 years. They're looking at having teachers actually participate more and contribute more to their plans. They're going to reduce the cost of living benefits, and also they're taking the average annual salary from like 3 years to 5 years. So a lot of proposed changes. We're going to see how they phase in over the next several years, but you can guarantee there'll be some big changes coming down the road.
Right now when my daughter's going to school to be a teacher, so I'll have to warn her changes are coming. Yeah. Some of our viewers are already retired though, so can they expect to keep a steady pension, check, or what's going to happen?
Yeah, they won't take them away, but what they will do is reduce the cost of living adjustment that they're used to, in the past. So they're going to probably be reducing that over time. And the biggest change is health care. So pensions really weren't designed in the past to do health care. It was just an added benefit, but they don't have the proper funding for that. So you're going to see more and more costs be passed on to the retirees to pay for their health care.
Well, isn't that something that they really rely on? How can they do that?
And it's frustrating, especially if you're on a fixed income and you have limited resources.
I've heard complaints, a lot of clients who are really complaining about that. So what can we do to make sure we're not left holding this empty pension bag at the end?
Well, we actually have an education program coming up for your viewers if they'd like to attend. It's free if they'd like to swing by our Valley View office, where we call our Wealth Watch Center. And that's actually going to be on Tuesday, April 24th at 1 p.m. and also Thursday, April 26th at 6:30. They do fill up fast, but we're going to cover all the pension plans, all the changes, and how you can make sure you can have a secure future.
Excellent. Give some of these people who attend a really good overview of what they have choices about and what they have to worry about and plan for.
Exactly.
You're looking for people already retired or those who are about to?
It can be either way. It doesn't matter. Because, again, these changes are going to affect both pre-retirees and post-retirees. So anybody that has any type of pension plan like this can come and benefit from the program.
Okay. Excellent advice. With pensions becoming a thing of the past, you need to plan for your retirement future. And even if you're not already retired, you need to pay attention. Attend Jim's seminar, and for more information, give him a call. His number's coming up next.
Find out more by calling the Lineweaver Financial Group at 1-888-313-4009 or visit www.lineweaver.net. Next, we've got your back. But first, today is typically tax day, but because April 15th falls on a Sunday, your taxes aren't due today, and they aren't due tomorrow either. But why the bonus day? We'll tell the tale of why Tuesday is tax day this year when we return.
Good Neighbor Pharmacy locations accept your Express Scripts and TRICARE benefits. If you're an Express Scripts or TRICARE beneficiary, contact us today to transfer your prescriptions. You'll be happy you did. Find the store nearest you at goodneighborpharmacy.com.
In Conneaut, visit Gertie's Pharmacy. In Ashtabula, go to Hoffman's Pharmacy. In Newton Falls, visit Newton Falls Pharmacy. And in Wyndham, go to Wyndham Pharmacy. For more information, go to goodneighborpharmacy.com. Good Neighbor Pharmacy, the best medicine for your health.
Planning ahead can lift the burden off your spouse, your children, and your extended family. I invite you to stop by our well-known Brook Park Road location. Call us or visit our website and get more information today.
Monday, April 16th is Emancipation Day, a legal holiday in Washington, D.C. to mark Abraham Lincoln's signing of the Emancipation Act of 1862. Since government offices are closed on this day, this year you have until April 17th to file those tax forms. That's 2 extra days to procrastinate.
When it comes to back pain, we need to back up and find out why we're hurting so then we can start healing. Dr. Michael Steinmetz is here to provide background information on our back problems. Dr. Steinmetz is the chairman of the Department of Neurosciences at Metro Health and medical director of the Metro Health Spine Center. So we welcome you here to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We got a spine here. How
Yes,
does
we do.
the structure of the spine stand up to the aging process?
Well, with our upright posture, this combined with some genetic factors results in the spine bearing a fairly considerable load, more so in the low back and the neck because there's more motion in these areas. And this can result in a fairly significant degenerative process of the spine. And with our aging population, this is becoming more so prevalent now. And the degenerative process in the spine can result in conditions that can cause problems in patients' back. And again, especially now with an aging population, it's becoming more prevalent.
Well, so what are some of those problems that people will experience?
So 2 of the more common problems we see, especially again in this aging population, are lumbar stenosis, and that's really a narrowing of the space available for the nerves in the back. And that can also result in scoliosis, or a curvature of the back. And that's not the scoliosis that we saw in adolescence, but this is more due to that degenerative process. As the discs that we see in the spine collapse and the bones wear out to some extent, the spine can rotate and curve. That can result in symptoms such as back pain, and it can also result in compression of the nerves in the back, which can result in leg pain, numbness, and tingling when people stand and walk, the so-called lumbar stenosis.
Okay, so that's more than just an aching back from doing too much. So
Correct.
Once we've determined why we're hurting, how can we fix it?
Well, most people have back pain. I think you've probably had back pain, I've had back pain, and it's usually a fairly self-limited phenomenon. But if it becomes more pronounced and starts interfering with life, then it often requires a medical intervention. And we often encourage patients to at least initially see their primary care provider to try to determine, is this a real problem, or is this maybe just a strain I had from spending some time on the golf course?
Okay, so if it's very mild, we could take minimally invasive techniques to help?
Well, correct. If it's just mild, oftentimes no intervention is needed, just some time is needed. But if the symptoms become more persistent, say the back pain is lasting more than a few days with just some rest, or there's some symptoms in the legs such as pain, numbness, or tingling, then really a medical intervention is needed at that time.
Okay, so you're now up to scale. What's the next step in there?
Correct. So if your primary care doctor feels that an evaluation is necessary, you know, probably the most appropriate step is a referral to a comprehensive spine center. Really, that's the task we've taken on at Metro Health, is to provide a multidisciplinary team approach to spine, which can provide an accurate diagnosis and then a treatment plan for your symptoms.
And if it just doesn't go away, is surgery then the last option?
Well, we always try to do the least invasive procedures first. Oftentimes just medicine or some physical therapy and rehabilitation is what's needed to cure the pain, and that works in the majority of patients. At times some stronger medications may be required, but if that's just not working and symptoms start interfering with life, then we begin the interventional treatments. And we work with our pain management colleagues and our physical medicine rehab colleagues where maybe injections can come into play. But if none of that is working and symptoms persist and interfere with life, then surgery may be an appropriate step here.
Okay, well hopefully we don't have to get that far, but this has been very good information. To get back on track, check out Metro Health Spine Center. You can also attend a health talk on back pain relief this coming week on Wednesday, April 18th at 6 p.m. at the Holiday Inn.
Next, he lived in Hollywood but called Cleveland home. Looking for places to go, things to do? Welcome to our community calendar. The retirement landscape is changing for both private and public sector employees. Find out about the future of pension plans and how you can be prepared at a free seminar Tuesday, April 24th, 2012 at 1 p.m. and again Thursday, April 26th, 2012 at 6:30 p.m. Both take place at the offices of the Lineweaver Financial Group in Valley View. To reserve your seat, call 1-888-313-4009.
Once upon a time, there was a prolific and legendary writer from Ohio who used to be mentioned in the same breath as Sinclair Lewis, Eugene O'Neill, and F. Scott Fitzgerald. His name was Jim Tully, and for many years that was the end of the story. But our next guest, Paul Bauer, has reopened the book on this fine writer, and he's here to tell us why we need to take a second look. Paul is the co-author of Jim Tully, American Writer, Irish Rover, Hollywood Brawler. So we're happy to have you here to talk about this Ohioan here. So before we get into the writing, give us a little bit of background on Jim Tully.
Well, Jim Tully was the child of Irish-American immigrants. He was born in Western Ohio in 1886. His father was a ditch digger, worked clearing water from Auglaize County. This is out really near Lyme, Ohio, in St. Mary's. And his mother was a domestic. She died when he was about 6 years old, and then he spent 6 years, from the ages of about 6 to 12, in the Catholic orphanage of Cincinnati.
Okay, and then after he was 12, what did he do?
Well, he pretty much hit the road.
Okay.
As
Hopped
a child,
a train, right?
He technically wasn't a hobo. He was a road kid. He was sort of a junior hobo, but he rode back and forth across the country for the next 6 years, really as a child. Those were the experiences that when he finally left the road, which he did in Kent, Ohio, he ended up writing about.
Okay, and then from Kent, I understand that he went out to Hollywood, and that's really when he started writing.
Well, he really began writing poetry when he was in Kent. His first work was poetry published actually in the Plain Dealer in 1911. He had worked at this time in Kent. He worked for Davy Tree. He was a professional boxer. He worked on the railroad briefly. He worked in a rubber company. But he ended up moving to Hollywood, where he hooked up with Charlie Chaplin, of all people.
My goodness.
And once in Hollywood, he began this sort of dual career, writing about Hollywood, the golden age of Hollywood, as he saw it, was moving from silence to talkies, but also writing these autobiographical books about his 6 years on the road.
Okay, and the books that he wrote that were autobiographical are really what he became famous for?
And that's what he became famous for, right? Those autobiographical books of his experiences on the road.
Real life, the hobo, the all of the things he did.
All
so
the things
tell me
he
about
saw.
some of the books then.
Well, the first one, the sort of his breakthrough book was Beggars of Life, and that was really his autobiography of his years on the road. Everything he saw went into that book. That was the one that really sort of established him. He worked also during his road years in a small-time circus. So that also is really sort of a true account, a true autobiography of what he did. He wrote a book called Shanty Irish, which was mostly true, but it was somewhat embellished about his fairly happy years before the age of 6 and before his mother died. And then he wrote really a straight novel about boxing called The Bruiser. So those are the four of the main ones.
4 biggies. Did everybody love his works?
You know, he got terrific reviews. They sold well, but I would not say everyone loved them. One of his problems, he ran into censorship troubles with 2 of the books. He managed to not only get banned in New York and Boston, but the entire country of Canada banned one of the books. The material is, I think, fairly tame by current standards, but there was a sexual frankness about the subject that really bothered a lot of censors. But you read it now, and really you wouldn't raise an eyebrow to look at it.
And I understand he got sick in his later years and kind of fell off the map. So you are now trying to bring back his writings.
This is an important Ohio writer. We think he is as important as Sherwood Anderson and Toni Morrison. This is someone from right here who began his writing career.
And was a contender, and we just got to bring him back.
That's what I hope.
All right, so here's the book. This is about a hometown hero, a hobo who ended up being a Hollywood heavyweight. And that story is a real page-turner. My thanks to Paul Bauer. You can read about him, about Jim Tully himself, in Jim Tully, American Writer, Irish Rover, Hollywood Brawler. To get a read on how to find this book for yourself, use the information that's coming up next.
To learn more or to order the book, call Kent State University Press at 330-672-7913 or click to www.kentstateuniversitypress.com.
It's time to get up and go. An exercise minute on golden opportunities.
Hello, I'm Mike Carbon from Breakout Fitness, and today we're going to do side bends to work our oblique muscles on the side. All right, we got our dumbbell. You're only going to need one for this one. Again, 16-ounce can equals 1 pound of additional weight. Now, I want you to hold the weight in one hand, letting the other hand just hang naturally to your side. Bending at the hips, we're going to simply drop the dumbbell down to one knee. Great, and then come up nice and slow using the other side to contract and pull that additional weight, touching the opposite knee. Great, let's do it again. Drop it down to one knee. Come up, pulling the other side, and touch the other knee. Great. It's very important to maintain good posture while doing this and bend at the sides, not forward or back, so in that way there should be no discomfort in this. All right, everybody, now it's your turn to get up and go.
For your copy of the exercise booklet, please send $1 for postage to Golden Opportunities, 23240 Chagrin Boulevard, Suite 450, Beechwood, Ohio, 44122.
At every stage of life, baby boomers have reshaped the trends, from advertising to housing to healthcare. And now as we age, we see our large numbers impacting the face of Alzheimer's and other dementias. What will the future hold? To tell us what we can do today, Steve Osgood and Nancy Udelson are here from the Alzheimer's Association Cleveland area chapter. They want to share the latest findings and advice. Steve is the advocacy chair and Nancy is the executive director. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Such an important topic. So Nancy, let's start with you. I know this is a national problem, but bring it a little closer to home. What's going on here in Ohio?
Sure. Right here locally in our region, there are about 56,000 people with Alzheimer's disease, up from 40,000 back in 2000. And in the state of Ohio, we have an estimated 230,000 people with the disease. And we always say estimated because there's so many people that go undiagnosed.
Oh, I'm sure there are. It's kind of kept behind closed doors yet, I would think.
It is.
That's not good. So, Steve, do these numbers in Ohio and the Cleveland area reflect what's going on nationally?
Unfortunately, they really do. The Alzheimer's Association estimates that there are 5.4 million Americans currently suffering from the disease. And of that amount, 5.2 million are 65 years old or older, but a full 200,000 are actually under the age of 65. If you put it in another way, and this is very sobering, every 68 seconds somebody develops Alzheimer's.
Oh, very scary. I mean, these numbers are huge. What do they mean, though, Nancy, to us on a personal level?
Well, like any disease, Lori, you know, there's a financial toll, certainly, but there's also a very personal toll. Someone who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or related dementia usually lives somewhere between 4 and 8 years, but they can live as long as 20 years with the disease. So if you were taking care of your loved one, you can only imagine what the toll would take. Caregiver stress is a huge problem for people dealing with this disease.
Yeah, they need some help. So Steve, even if we have a family member with dementia, even if we don't personally, I mean, we're all feeling this effect throughout the community, right?
Right, as families are struggling, especially in these hard economic times, and states are suffering the budget shortfalls that they are, the cost of Alzheimer's is overwhelming. It's estimated that in 2012, the United States will spend $200 billion on Alzheimer's, and that includes $140 billion of Medicaid and Medicare. What it doesn't include is that there is $210 billion of unpaid care that is given by caregiving families and friends of people with Alzheimer's.
Those are huge numbers. So,
They are.
Steve, what do we do?
Well, the first thing we have to do is make people aware of this upcoming epidemic. If we don't do anything or change the path we're on, by 2050, this disease is going to cost $1.1 trillion annually. I mean, that's just a huge, huge number. And so that
beyond what I can even comprehend, you know.
And if you think about it, it's only 38 years away. I mean, that is not that far away.
Yeah, it comes very quickly. So what's the Alzheimer's Association doing to try to get this funding that's going to be needed?
Well, we have put a formal plan together, and the number one goal of the plan is really to start working on ways to prevent Alzheimer's disease and then help those that are affected by the disease and have that occur by 2025. There is huge momentum on the research side of Alzheimer's right now, but unfortunately it still needs a more national presence of support and additional resources. At the same time, this plan that is put in place is really working on enhancing the care of the Alzheimer's patient themselves, as well as giving additional support to caregiving families.
Okay, and Nancy, is there something we can do here in town to
Absolutely.
get more information to help?
We urge your viewers to become advocates for these issues, to go to alz.org and sign up to be an advocate for us and our issues.
Okay, sounds like a great thing to do, to volunteer time for. So, Alzheimer's will affect all of us in one way or another. Learn what you can do to help your future by contacting the Alzheimer's Association Cleveland area chapter at 800-272-3900 or visit their website at alz.org. Or alz.org, yeah, no com in there. My thanks to Steve and Nancy for alerting us to these unnerving numbers.
Next, protect your estate from greedy children and in-laws.
Hi, Trapper Jack at Nelson Vein Clinic, and yes, guys get varicose veins too. Jay, you just had this procedure literally just hours ago. Do you feel anything already?
Yes, relief. Well, I didn't really do it for the cosmetic, I did it for the medical reason of it. The downside of what could happen with blood clots and everything, just do it. It's out there, it's new, it has great results, and it's painless.
Isn't it time you took care of your varicose veins? Call or log on to nelsonvein.com.
Did you miss a phone number or website? Then here's your second chance, because we're going to list all of that information again. Then we'll be back to tell you you have to have your will your way. After you die and you leave your estate to your heirs, everyone will be grateful and happy with their inheritance, right? Right? What's that? You think your daughter-in-law may think she or her husband's not getting enough? Or maybe you don't trust your nephew or your sister. Is there any way to protect your estate from a lawsuit after your death? Here with 3 top tips to bulletproof your estate is my law partner, Mike Solomon.
Hi, Lori.
Welcome, welcome. So you've made a list of the top 3 strategies to protect against a disgruntled family member actually filing suit.
Right.
First one is get a competency letter.
Right. One of the most common ways to dispute a will is to say the person making the will was incompetent. So you might consider having a letter from a doctor stating that you are competent. It's especially important if someone is starting the early stages of dementia or maybe they're getting forgetful. Get a letter like that, make sure it's dated around the time of the will, and that should help.
Okay. Second on your list, make a videotape.
That's the other thing. Many times people argue that the person is under duress when they've made the will. A videotape, if you videotape it, you'll show the person knows what they're doing, they're not under duress, and hopefully that'll help support the will.
And they probably should make some statement as to what they're doing and why they're doing it.
That's right.
How about the third one, an interim clause to your will? That sounds kind of scary.
Yeah, it's a terror clause. Basically what you're saying is that if you have a clause in the will that says if you protest the will, if you argue that it's not valid, that you lose your inheritance. So, for example, if you're trying to write your daughter out of the will and you say $10,000 to my daughter, but if she protests the will, she loses the entire inheritance. So it kind of makes it very risky a lot to challenge the will.
Okay. How about the difference between a will and a trust? Does it matter?
Well, for the purposes of disputing the validity, basically it's the same standard. So whether it's a will or a trust, you have that same standard. However, a will is public. It has to be filed with the probate court eventually when you pass away, and a trust is a private document. It doesn't have to be filed anywhere. So it's harder for the beneficiary that you're writing out to figure out what's going on. So that also.
So they may not even see the terms of the will, but in terms of the trust, but the will is right out there for the world to see.
That's exactly right.
Okay, sounds like good 3 tips for people who are a little worried, and it seems to me that's a lot of people these days.
That's right. That's right.
So, if your family doesn't get along perfectly now, they certainly won't get along at your death either. And sometimes that leads to costly and time-consuming lawsuits. Follow Mike's tips to protect your estate and your family.
Call Budish, Solomon, Steiner, and Peck at 1-888-236-5173 for more information or to schedule a speaker for your organization. Or log on to www.budishandsolomon.com.
Thanks for joining us. Next week, are you living with pain? We'll prescribe methods to manage it. We'll look at the novel ways the library is writing its own new chapter. Then we'll meet a woman with plenty of reasons to smile. Plus, we'll help you operate your way to a successful surgery. So until next week, please remember to make the most of your golden opportunities.
Would you like to join our kitchen conversation? All you have to do is call toll-free 1-877-765-1543 and leave us your question, name, and phone number. Or log on to www.golden.tv for all the latest information and show updates.